let's turn then to Bradford City, and as Josh alluded to there, Gaz, we thought in the weeks gone by since promotion was confirmed that Richie Smallwood, we kind of thought he might get a year. He might get that 1 year extension. Obviously, he's 34-year-old now. Turns out that's not the case. It's been announced today that Richie Smallwood will be leaving at the end of his contract expiring.
It broke this morning, yeah. He announced it on his social media that he was going. His words are, and it's quite interesting to read what he's actually said, because the way he's worded it is the club have decided not to offer a renewal. Now, that could mean a few different things. It's as though he's chosen his words quite carefully, because when the return list was done 2 or 3 weeks ago, he was listed as a player that we were in negotiations with.
Yeah.
So the club have said we're in negotiations, and he's now saying 2 or 3 weeks later that we haven't offered a renewal. So read into that what you will.
There was an article as well in the TNA fortnight 3 weeks ago. Smallwood I've loved my time here, and basically saying how much he wants to stay at Bradford City. Around the time that retaining list was announced, when, as you say, he was listed as, being in negotiations. Something certainly changed, it seems, from the coaching staff's point of view.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, because I'm only guessing, and City fans are obviously guessing as throughout the day, because the news broke this morning. My guess, and it's not an informed guess, my guess would be that they've had initial discussions and they were far enough apart in what they wanted, what each side was willing to do, that it was pointless making an offer. That is obviously I'm jumping to conclusions there, but that is what I'm guessing's happened, which would fall in with the rumours that were going round a few weeks ago that perhaps City might only be willing to offer something that Smallwood wasn't willing to accept, i.e. he might feel that whatever was going to be on the table from City, he would get a better offer, not necessarily in terms of wages or playing level, but perhaps in terms of length of deal, duration. He might. I'm only guessing, Chris, but I'm guessing that's perhaps what's happened here, that City have perhaps talked about, I don't know, a 1 year deal. And he's saying, I want a minimum of 2 because I can get 2 elsewhere. That's me guessing. I don't know. And because maybe that's how the initial discussions have gone, that's led to no official offer being made. I don't know.
I think that's a very fair assumption, because you always see, obviously, and you can't blame him as well, players at his stage of his career at 34 do kind of want that little bit of extra security. And obviously, if they can get a 2-year contract, it's far more beneficial for them, whether they kind of end up playing week in or week out or not, for them to have that extra year of security, knowing that a wage is coming in, rather than obviously a 1 year deal. I mean, I wouldn't expecting, I suspect you'll agree with me on this one. I don't suppose he'll be short of offers, certainly from League Two sides, or the wealthier sides, even maybe of the National League, that would be prepared to give him that extra year and that 2-year contract and a decent wage, perhaps.
Yeah, he'll definitely get offers in League Two, longer offers than I would imagine David Sharp would have been prepared to offer him in League One. And like you say, those big spenders in the conference, York Cities perhaps, might be looking at someone like Richie Smallwood. Honestly, he'd probably do a job for certain teams in League One. I think he'd have done a job for us in League One, particularly over the next year, especially over the next year. It depends how quickly we're aiming to kick on. David Sharp has obviously looked at it and thought that he can get better value for money over the course of a contract elsewhere. But I think over the next 12 months, he would have been very integral to whatever we would have wanted, whatever we would have done in League One. I mean, I've worded it. I did a little video earlier on just for YouTube and socials, and my personal opinion of it is very risky. It is a risk from the club. They've gambled to a certain extent, and I can go into that if you want me to, Chris, or why I feel that way.
Yeah.
Well, there's a few reasons that I think that way. Let me start by saying Richie Smallwood's been here for 3 years now. The first 2 years that he was here, particularly under Mark Hughes, he wasn't a fan's favourite. He wasn't someone that the fans particularly thought was playing to the ability that he had, or he wasn't giving what the fans expected when he signed. People were excited when he signed because he was Hull City's captain in the Championship and he dropped down, and people were saying he don't look like a Championship player. But I think a large part of that was the fact that he was being asked to do a job by Hughes that he wasn't particularly capable of doing. He was asked to be a playmaker. He was taking all the set pieces, and that's never been Richie Smallwood's game. You speak to anyone that's watched Richie Smallwood, he's a battler, he's a destroyer, he's a breaker up of play. This last year, this last 12 months under Alexander, he's been allowed to do that. He's been a revelation. He's been absolutely the player that we thought we were getting 2 or 3 years ago. He's won Player of the Year. He's totally turned fans' opinions around of him because he's been allowed to focus on what he's good at under Graham Alexander, he's been Player of the Year. He's also been captain for all 3 years that he's been here. Graham Alexander speaks extremely highly of him. I would guess, I'm only guessing here, but if the decision has been made to let him go, I'm guessing Alexander will have fought the corner to keep him because he was very much a Graham Alexander man, and Alexander trusted him on the pitch. Then you've got the scenario that not many players. I know you might look at it and think we can get somebody who's younger, who's arguably as good as or can be better than Smallwood over the next 2 years. Maybe you can, but not, as we know at Bradford City, not many players can handle playing at Valley Parade. That is a very, very big thing. And Smallwood is somebody that didn't faze at all because he'd come out of the Championship and he'd played in front of crowds like that throughout his career. So whoever comes in might have more footballing ability or potentially could be a better player over 2-3 years that we want to sign them for. But whoever comes in has got to be able to handle that pressure of playing at Valley Parade like Smallwood could. Also, like I say, he was captain. He was Player of the Year. That leaves a huge hole in itself in any team if you're losing your captain and your Player of the Year. Look at what happened when he got sent off at Swindon towards the end of last season. We lost him for 3 games and we fell apart in that running. You guys know how bad we were in that running. He was back for the Fleetwood game for the last game of the season, but he missed Chesterfield, Notts County, and Donny. And we took 1 point from 3 games. That shows how integral he was to that team. And then you've also got the scenario. So you've got the scenario of whoever comes in has got to be able to handle playing at Valley Parade. Whoever comes in has got to be able to fill the hole of a captain and the Player of the Year. And then you've got the scenario that, as with any promoted team, that group this year was extremely close-knit. It was a very close-knit unit in that dressing room. And as captain, he will have been a very, very big part of that. I think he was, although, like I say, he wasn't necessarily a fan's favourite in his first 2 years. He was a fan's favourite in his last year. Fans liked him this year. He's been a really big fan's favourite. He's won Player of the Year. But he's been a player's favourite. He's been popular in the dressing room for all 3 years that he's been there. And as captain, he will have been a huge part of that close-knit group and the tightness that's helped us get over the line towards the end of the season. You've got the Northeast contingent that travelled down every day from the Northeast in a carpool. He's part of that. So it leaves a huge hole on the pitch as captain and Player of the Year. It leaves a huge hole in the dressing room. I would be interested to know what Alexander's thoughts of it are and what the other players' thoughts of it are, because obviously he's such an integral part of the team in the dressing room. And then you've got the scenario of can whoever comes in handle playing at Valley Parade, like so many. You go for a younger player, perhaps someone on the up who's coming in to play over 2 or 3 years. There's no guarantee that they're going to handle the crowd and everything that comes with playing at Valley Parade. So it is a huge, huge risk. But you've got to hope that it's a calculated risk, and you've got to trust that David Sharp and Graham Alexander have got this one right, and whoever comes in to replace him can kick us on in League One.
Damsey?
Yeah, I don't know if it's as... I get why you're saying it's a big risk, Gaz, because obviously you've watched them all season. You know how important he is to the side. I think he let you down, I'll be honest, at the back end of last season when he got sent off. I think as an experienced player, you know, we've what he knew, what was on the line. We've been at the club for 3 years, knowing how much it meant to City to go up. I thought he let you down, and it could have cost you. Luckily, it didn't. At 34, yeah, he's experienced, but I don't see why you can't go get a 30-year-old to fill that gap, or a 29-year-old, somebody who's, got the legs. Something that you're going to need in League One is legs. Listen, I don't think there's a lot between the bottom of League One and the top of League Two. I really don't. What I do think, though, is it might be a little bit more competitive at the sort of bottom end of League Two next year. Donny coming up. You haven't got absolute waste baskets like Crawley and blooming Cambridge. You've got teams that are going to be half decentish. Northampton, they beat Town last year. Exeter, that they did well. You got Nigel Clough at Mansfield, so it's not going to be easy to stay up in League One. And I just feel that this could be the moment where, yes, I get how important Smallwood is, but with how City fans felt about him for the 2 year previous, and all right, he's done what he's done in the last year. I just think you can replace him with better legs. You might not be able to replace him with experience, but you'll be able to replace him with legs that will last longer in games. And that's kind of what I don't think it's as disastrous. It's like at Town we've let a load of experienced players go. Tom Lees, Matty Pearson, Johnny Ogg. I'm not as fussed about them going personally.
Apart from Hogg, you've only just finished crying over Hoggy.
No, Hoggy's different though, and Hoggy's different. But Matty Pearson's been with us for, I know, but Matty Pearson's been with us for like 5 years. Tom Lee's the same. I'm not devastated that they've gone, because I think that the club can replace them with better players, and I think that is the same for Richie Smallwood. But I'm not a City fan, so I don't have the same attachment to him and watched him for 42 games last season in what was a great season for him.
I don't think you're wrong. I think there probably are players that's what the point I suppose I was trying to make before. In that I don't think you're wrong. I think there'll be players that can come in who have equal ability of Richie Smallwood and can probably take us on over a longer term than Richie Smallwood could, because Richie Smallwood's going to be 35 during the next season, turn 35. His birthday's around December. So he's going to turn 35 in the next season. So a longer term, yeah, there's probably a player out there that can be better than him. I think it's just the hole that he's going to leave in the dressing room. And, that as captain and like I said, the leader in Graham Alexander's man and obviously popular with the rest of the team and the players. And then you've got obviously the fact that he's just won Player of the Year, and we saw how integral he was when he was suspended for those 3 games. You're right, he did let us down at the end of the season. He openly admitted in his interview when he came back for Fleetwood that he said himself that he thought if he hadn't have got sent off against Swindon that we would have already been promoted by the time that Fleetwood game came around. And it's hard to disagree with him. He was probably right. So he's admitting there that he let us down. But yeah, it's just the hole that he leaves on the pitch and in the dressing room, given how well he played last season and how popular he is with the players. Now, you're right, we will need legs in League One. That is something he did lack. I think it helped him this year having Patterson alongside him. Patterson's your box-to-box man, and that helped him that he didn't have to do as much running. But fitness-wise, he played every minute of every game, Downsy. He as a 34-year-old, he never missed a game. He never missed a game. He's fit as a butcher's dog. Do you know what I mean? And the only games, I think there was a stat that came out. I think the first league game he'd missed in 3 years, in his 3 years at City, the first league game he'd missed was that Notts County one, the first one of his suspension. So,
yeah, and I get that. And Huggy was very much the same for us. He was the fittest player, always won the bleep test. Was even at 35, what he was this year, was winning bleep tests in pre-season. Looks after his body, the model professional. But you can tell when in games, you can tell that he couldn't keep up with the faster midfielders, particularly at the top of the league. So it's just an observation, Gaz. I just think I wouldn't be as worried as what maybe some City fans are, but that's just me.
I mean, I'm a pessimist, and a lot of City fans are looking at it and saying that obviously we can, over the course of maybe a 2 or a 3 year contract or whatever's on offer to his replacement, we probably can do better. But me being a pessimist is looking at what the hole it's going to leave and the type of player that, as we all know, needs to come in to be able to handle playing at Valley Parade. If you're going for a younger, up-and-coming player, Can they hack that coming to Valley Parade? Let's see. If David Sharp, it's a gamble. It's a calculated gamble. It's a risk. You've got to trust David Sharp and Graham Alexander that they've got this one right. Like I said, Graham Alexander was a big fan of his. I would imagine it's come from Sharp thinking that he can get better, or he can get someone that can come in and do what we hope they do, and what you say, Downs, they'll need to do in League One. I think that David Sharp is obviously confident he can do that, and fingers crossed that he can.
Is there anything else, guys, coming out of Bradford City kind of in recent days? Anything on the rumour mill that you think is worth bringing up at the moment in terms of new arrivals, maybe?
The only other thing that happened a couple of weeks ago was George Goodman got his first pro deal. Northern Ireland under-19 centre-back, came through the youth team, was on the bench a couple of times last season when we were short. He's got his first pro contract, 12 months, so it's good to be able to keep hold of him. He's obviously fairly highly rated if he's getting called up for Northern Ireland for his age group. That's the only other definite news. There are rumours doing the rounds about signings, as you would expect at this time of year. There was an article in the Telegraph and Argus towards the end of last week saying that we've agreed terms with a player who is currently on holiday. It's all agreed, but we're waiting for him to come back before he can actually sign. So that was expected to be announced at the beginning of this week. It's not been announced today, so maybe we're looking at tomorrow or Wednesday. If that deal doesn't fall through, that it will be announced. No mention reliably of who it is. There are 3 rumours that I've seen online that have gathered pace over the last sort of week or two. One is obviously Matty Pearson, that's been released by Town. He's rumoured that he's been in talks with us. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I do believe that there's interest from Blackpool there as well, and possibly other clubs in League One. Whether we are interested, I don't know. That's one of the rumours. It's come from the fan base more than anything else. Another rumour that came up today that City fans weren't enamoured with at all was one that came from a rumour page on Twitter, but a rumour page that has supposedly got things right recently, and has more than a few hundred followers. It has 8,000 or 9,000 followers, and that is Curtis Tilt from Salford. He's not somebody I think that the fans would be impressed with, in the respect that he's coming out of League Two, and having watched him 2 or 3 times recently, he's got the turning circle of an oil tanker. He ain't the quickest. But apparently...
So is Matty Pearson.
Well, but Mike Pearson's played in League One, hasn't he? And Curtis Tilt's been playing in League Two for the last 3 years. But apparently he's been in the team of the week quite a few times in League Two over the last year. That's the second rumour. The third rumour is a lad from Kilmarnock who was actually in Town's youth system as a kid. I don't think he ever played for Town, but he went on loan to Aki Stanley. Then he had 4 or 5 years at Doncaster Rovers and has spent the last 3 years at Kilmarnock in Scotland. Centre half called Joe Wright. That is another rumour that he's doing the rounds at the moment. So those are the 3 rumours. Whether they are the player that is rumoured to be signing beginning of this week, I don't know. Whether they're true at all, I don't know. But they are the 3 rumours. Joe, the only thing I'd have against Joe Wright is the last centre half that we signed from Kilmarnock was Ash Taylor, and he were bloody awful. So if he does come, surely he's got to be better than him.
Sorry, Downsy.
I have no information on Joe Wright. I'll be honest. He never made a Town team, so if he was in the academy, I presumably he got released and, like I said, went on loan to Aki and then got released. But on Pearson, I can only imagine that he would. I can only think he would choose Bradford over Blackpool because of the play. The only reason he would choose Blackpool, honestly, is because of wages. Because he lived about 10 minutes from Valley Parade in Keighley. But I don't understand why he wouldn't choose Bradford.
The money thing is the thing, because there was also an article in the TNA last week about how we're having to wait. It was a bit ambiguous as to whether he was talking about last season or whether he was the last couple of windows, or whether he was talking about this transfer window. But Graham Alexander used the phrase, "We are having to say no" quite a lot when it comes to wages. So maybe
the other thing I will say about Blackpool as well is that I suspect that they'll certainly have aspirations of being top 6, certainly top 10 next season, I think,
Oh,
under Steve
Blackpool
Bruce, it's
will,
fair
yeah.
to say, without a doubt. So there is certainly
I mean-
a promotion aspect as well. The one thing that those three players, though, in the rumour mill all have in common, as well as being obviously centre halves, is they're all of a certain age. They're all give or take around that 30 mark in Pearson, in Wright, and in Curtis Tilt as well. So, if there's a grain of truth in at least what it seems that Graham Alexander is looking for, it's an experienced centre half.
Doesn't surprise me, Chris. We've
No.
lost. You look at the defenders that are under contract at the moment. We've only got Aidan Baldwin and Neil Byrne as centre halves under contract at the moment, and they both played right side or central last year. We obviously played Graham Alexander's played three centre halves, so you need 5 or 6, don't you, in a squad when you're playing three centre halves? We've only got 2 at the moment. We have. We were in negotiation. The return list again said that we were in negotiations with Kieran Kelly to extend his stay. So whether that'll come through and he'll sign, I don't know. Whether it'll be another Richie Smallwood scenario, I don't know. But centre half is something that we'll look at. Obviously, Jack Shepherd's went back to Barnsley. He's someone that City fans would dearly love to have back next season, but you can see Barnsley wanting to keep him, given how well he played for City last year. So there is definitely recruitment needed at the centre half position. Obviously, there are recruitment needed elsewhere in the squad as well. Up front, we're short, but it doesn't surprise me we're looking at experienced centre halves at all.